All right, we've talked about populations and samples, and now we're going to talk about how to make predictions about a population based on sample data. This is kind of a three-step process. First, you figure out that you need to do a sample, and you go out and gather your sample data. Then you find the probability of what you're looking for in your sample data, and I'll tell you how to do that. And then you multiply this probability that you find in step 2 by your total population. So to look at this, let's go back to our example of the Rocky Mountain National Forest and the mountain pine beetle infestation. Now, we already said that that forest was too big, so we came up with a plan and we inspected 2,650 trees. That was our sample. So we inspected them, and then what we found, or our findings, were that 345 of those trees were infected with the mountain pine beetle. So now we're going to find the probability that a tree in our sample was infected. And you do this by dividing the number infected, which is the 345, by the sample size, which is 2,650. And when I do that, I get 0.1301, which I'm going to round to 0.13, or I could change it to a percentage and say that 13% of our sample trees were infected. So now I'm going to extrapolate that and multiply that 13% times the number of trees in the forest, which is 23,850,000 trees. And when I do that, I can predict that I think there's going to be about 3,100,500 trees in the Rocky Mountain National Forest that are infected with the mountain pine beetle. And that would be really useful information for anyone who was trying to stop this infestation or manage this forest. All right, let's use one last example. And I made up all of these numbers, by the way, so don't take this as for real. Your psychology class wants to know how many of the 1,800 students at Liberty North High School wear a smartwatch to school. So you have designed a survey and plan to survey every 5th student who comes, who enters the lunchroom, and ask them whether they wear a smartwatch to school. You end up surveying 350 students, 25 of who wear smartwatches to school. Okay, so you're trying to do a random sample here by doing every 5th student. Now, there are going to be some people that are underrepresented, like the students that don't eat lunch or the ones that don't come to the cafeteria. But let's identify what our population is. Now, what we want to know is how many people wear smartwatches to school. But we're only interested in that information from the 1,800 students at Liberty North High School. So that is going to be our population. And our sample is the subgroup of that we surveyed. So the 350 students at Liberty North High School that were surveyed. Now, out of that, 25 of them said, yes, I wear a smartwatch to school. So we've gathered our data. Now we have to find the probability of what we're looking for in the sample data. Now remember, we're going to take our positive responses, our 25, and we're going to divide it by our sample size. So 25 divided by 350. And that gives us about 7%. So I'm going to take that decimal, or that probability, that 7%, and I'm going to multiply it by our population, which was 1,800, and I'm going to get 128.5. Well, you can't have half a person. Don't want any body parts. So we're going to round that to about 129 students at LNHS wear smartwatches. Not sure why the psychology class wanted that, but I think now you know how to find the probability from a sample and then take that probability and multiply it by a population so you can make a prediction from the population.